Well, happy Monday of 2025. This is episode number 2 for the new year here on Longbox Punk. That's me. I'm Chris. I'm the punk, and I am joined on this live stream by Adriano, the Pesto Comics man himself. Dude, thanks so much for hanging out with me and talking comics on a Monday evening.
Yeah, for sure. Thanks for having me. Yeah, this is my first of the year, so happy to be here.
Excellent. Great. See, I got the warm-up lap yesterday with Ian Mondrick, and so I'm already like my muscles are warmed, I'm primed, I'm ready to go.
Nice.
And all sorts of just ready, like jacked, stacked, and ready to I don't know what else rhymes with that I can say. So we just won't. That's a joke for one person, and he doesn't even watch the show. Gabby, thanks. So so we're going to talk all sorts of stuff in the next however long conversation that we have. But I want to start off before we get into the Kickstarter campaign that you've got launching on January 8th for Naked Kaiju Woman. Before we get into that, before we talk about this little tiny comic that you can barely see over here from Parts Unknown, before we get to any of that stuff, what's your origin story? Like, how did you get into comics? How did you start making comics? Like, what led you to this moment?
Yeah, so I've been into comics since I was young. My cousin got me into them. I'm the oldest of my brothers, but I had a cousin that I grew up with, and he was bringing home comics from his cousin, the same name, Adriano. So it was kind of passed down through the family. And yeah, he had like this folio of like Marvel, like X-Men, 90s stuff. But what caught my eye was the death of Superman. Like that was all happening, when I was a little younger. So that's what really got me into it. And then, yeah, like most people, you get into the high school years trying to, impress the women. So you kind of hide the comics a little bit.
Yep.
Fell out of it for a while there and went the film route. So went to film school, tried all that. I had a lot of fun in the film school side of things, but it's you need a lot just to get even a short film out there. So I was always looking for an outlet. I slowly got back into comics with Red Sun. That was the thing that caught my eye, and then I kind of went from there. And then dove straight in. I met my wife that I've been with now for 20 plus years or so in high school, and that was it. I'm like, okay, now I'm going to show you my stash of comic books. So it all happened around the same time. So I went to film school, tried all that. And then just found I needed, that creative outlet, and comics kind of came roaring back in the terms of it, just personally speaking. And decided, what, I'm going to try it. I've always wanted to. I've always dabbled here and there, and then seeing all that was happening on Kickstarter, it took me a while to finally dive in, and then I figured, if I'm going to do it, I'm going to do it all in. So that's kind of what got me here now. So now I'm on my 6th campaign.
Awesome.
But so dipped my toe in with a 4-pager that you can get free on my newsletter, and then I went from there. Kickstarter campaign one after the other. So yeah, now we're up to 6, and with I think we're up to 12 for the year planned. So yeah, it should be a fun year.
That's crazy. So you have like 6 planned. Is that math right? You have 6 planned for this year alone?
Yeah, I've shared the dates for the next 4. So there's Naked Kaiju Woman coming Wednesday, and then the next 3 issues of From Parts Unknown. And the only reason I haven't shared the rest of what I'm planning is just because that stuff is actually like mostly done. Like I was talking with Daniel, the artist of From Parts Unknown today. He's working on the last couple pages of issue 4, and then is jumping to number 5. So yeah, we'll have that all pretty much ready by the time the campaigns launch. Like the books will be done. So
that's awesome.
Yeah, I try not to share dates until they're at least mostly done or very close, at least within my control. So
yeah, because there's always hiccups as a super backer on Kickstarter. I've backed enough that like it feels like, and here's a random statistic, it feels like, I don't know, 60% of campaigns that I've backed, I inevitably get the update in like the planned, like, hey, we're going to start distributing rewards. And I get that update of like, hey, some crazy rabid monkey like burned down the printing factory.
Yeah.
And so we got to find a new printer. Yes. And it's always something like totally wacky like that. It's never just like I got held up in customs. It's like, no. The Chinese factory where it's printing got involved in some, and it's just like, I read it.
Someone disappeared. Someone, yeah.
Yeah, a portal opened up and just like this giant monster hand reached out and grabbed my artist. So we have to find a new artist. Like, okay, I mean, I believe you. Like, tell me more. Make that a comic, please.
That's the next one. Yeah, that's right.
So when you're like having done as many and planning as many as you've got, like, how is it like a super stressful thing every campaign that you do? Or because like that experience seems to always be different with like, I get really excited about launching it and like it's just really fun, or like my anxiety has me refreshing the page every 17 seconds to see if I have hit the goal yet or how many backers I have, or like where on that spectrum do you fall?
It's almost it's sad in a way that I almost feel nothing. It's
dead inside.
Yeah, those nerves, those like concerns that I used to, you'd be really nervous, like, oh, I hope this does well, blah blah blah. I don't know, now it's become almost routine, like, okay, well, this is the date that I'm hitting the button, hopefully it does well. I mean, I've been pretty lucky that things fund relatively quickly, so that stress of like, will it cross the line? I mean, I keep things relatively low, like artificially low, so they're not funding technically fully. They're not into profit when it hits that funding goal, but because I've just already put so much into it. So for me, it's like, what's the minimum I need to just feel okay with this? But so yeah, those nerves, I don't know. I again, maybe on Wednesday I'll be panicking and, and sweating about it. Right now, like I almost forgot that I have to launch it on Wednesday. Like that's how used to it I've become, which is good. This is where I wanted to be. So
yeah. I mean, it's that whole like do something so many times and suddenly you just trust and rely on that muscle memory to like get you through. Like as someone who's comfortable public speaking, like I have talked to people on the show before I hit the red button that are like, dude, I'm honestly like kind of anxious right now. And I'm like, oh, dude, you will be fine. Like it'll be totally fine. And so having people that come on a podcast, and beforehand they're like, I just need to, I don't know. Can I do this? And then I'm the other side where I'm like, let's go. Like, you want to go early? Can we go? Like, do we have a plan? Who needs a plan? Let's just go. Like, here's real talk. This is the notes that I write.
Nice.
That's it. And that's usually like, this is a whole book full of just all of the show notes that I've done. Yeah. Some are more than others, but like, here's where we are, and like, I'm super comfortable with this. I get that small spike at the beginning, and then it's just like, nope, we're in the show. Let's just talk comics and music and have fun and see what happens.
Yeah.
So like, it makes sense. I don't think you're totally dead inside, but it's good that like you flexed that muscle enough that now you're just like, oh, here's another rep.
Yeah. You kind of, you know what to expect to a degree. So that was always the concern before, right? I'm gonna hit the button and nobody's gonna back it, or I'm gonna, you know what I mean? It's not gonna work. I'm gonna have some kind of failure, or who knows, right? Or now it's like, again, I'm not that I'm some kind of veteran that's done 100 of them, but yeah, it's starting to, like, the last couple I've done have been a little relaxing in the terms of like, I didn't feel this swell going up to launch day. From Parts Unknown, I was still a little bit there. Just because it was my first series that I was launching. So I don't know why that concern came up. I was also coming off of like a unicorn of a book that that I still haven't hit that height again. That was a Crazy Latte thing called Love. That one was like, I don't know, it just hit. It went everywhere. I had all kinds of folks like backing it, that like very recognizable names that I'm like, why are you reading my stuff? Yeah, and like lots of people hyping it up. I got on like Comic Uno's like top 10 of the year with that book. So
that's awesome.
Yeah, it was a lot at once. So that was like, I hit all those heights and I'm like, there's no way I could do it again. And I didn't do it again. But but so now that I've kind of had that low, like the high and the low, it's like, okay, as long as I'm somewhere in between, I'm happy.
Balance the extremes and like temper everything and just hit the marks that you need to hit and, jump over the hurdles we needed to jump. And I mean, like, it's crazy to me that you already have the next 3 issues like done for Parts Unknown. Like that's wild, because that's That's not the case usually.
No,
I don't know if you know this or not.
yeah, it's usually not. That's the credit to Daniel. He was just he was on fire with him. Like he threw him at me. He's like, "You have the next one?" I'm like, yeah, let's do it. I haven't even launched the first one, but sure people like it. And then he's just been like just super quick on it. And then JP, the colorist, the JP Jordan's been doing the same thing. Like he's well ahead. So like issue 2 is being colored right now. So by the time that launches late February, it should be done.
Awesome.
Like completely done. So it's just I have a good team. Like my part's easy. I wrote it. I finished it before I ever handed it to Daniel to begin with. So for me, it was like my hands were clean by the time it went to them, but they were just like feverishly working on it. So it's been a benefit to me, you know.
So now, do you do the lettering for all of those as well?
I do, yeah. And that's usually the holdup. I usually wait until the campaign started. I try not to. I'm better about it usually, but even, you know, right before I hopped on, I was doing a couple pages of Naked Kaiju Woman, so that'll be done by the end of the campaign. But I usually don't. I let the deadline catch me, and then
I got time.
Yeah,
exactly.
I'll
see you at the Procrastinators Anonymous meeting tomorrow. Maybe because I'm the same. But for me, it's more of a I work best when I'm against the gun. When I have that deadline, then suddenly I know that I need to force myself to all right, carve out time, cancel all the things, and just sit down, put on these giant headphones, turn on whatever music is going to get me going, and then just go and get there.
Yeah.
So, and also, this is why I love doing live shows, just shamelessly. Crooked Painter, my man, what's up? Thanks for joining again. This is the second stream in a row. And speaking of second streams in a row, the man himself, Ian, who was on yesterday, is back in. I'm not going to say that I have a type, but apparently bearded bros with hats and glasses as guests are my type. So we'll see how many episodes I can run with that demographic specifically. Hopefully, and this is nothing against either of you, hopefully not many. I want to diversify this year. It's really challenging. As a bearded bro with glasses and who wears hats when I'm not doing the show to show off my ridiculous hair. That's me usually. So I just
You've got the hair to show off though.
I mean, hey, I got a really good barber. If you're ever in Middletown and need your haircut, give Miguel a shout. At 5 Star Studio. That's the shameless plug for the show, I guess. Here we are. So before, I know we mentioned Naked Kaiju Woman, but we were talking from parts unknown, so this doesn't feel super like a stretch. Can we just sit in that for a second? Absolutely. Are you a big wrestling fan and that's why you wanted to do a wrestling comic?
I'm what do you call it? A lapsed wrestling fan. Although I know what's going on. I know Raw's tonight on Netflix and all that business. I'm not totally out of the loop. I went to the Edge and Christian, or not Edge, Adam Copeland, or whatever, AEW show in Toronto the last time they were here. That was amazing, right? So,
I bet.
So I'm still in it. I just I'm trying to be cool about it. No, I'm not a mark.
Totally. It's casual. Super
right.
Whatever.
So, I'm not first in line to every show kind of thing, but I follow. I'm still well aware of what's going on. But I was heavy into me and my brothers heavy into it in the the Attitude Era. That was our time. And then right after that, so being from Toronto, having Edge be at the pinnacle of everything was he was the man. He was the heel most of the time, but it didn't matter, right?
And that's how John Moxley is now for me. He's a Cincinnati guy. I got a friend that used to do dinner with him every week after shows because her at the time boyfriend was also doing the indie circuits here. Amazing. And so she was like, no, I know John. We used to do dinner at Denny's, and buy the whatever broccoli casserole for 99 cents because that's all we had. I'm that's so weird. And she's like, yeah, he wouldn't know me though. Like, it's fine. I'm like, okay.
That's amazing.
Yeah. But like Cincinnati is now known for like having just psychopaths, because we also had the Pillmans. And so like Brian Pillman had the gun moments on Raw, and like that's what he's known for, not the fact that he was very good in the ring. And his son started to go a little crazy, but then they were like, let's not stereotype. You're not your dad, bro. Like, you're bigger, you're beefier.
Go a different way with it.
Yeah, like just go to NXT and do some flippy stuff and have some fun. He was like,
yeah. Oh man.
So was Edge your favorite like wrestler?
Yeah, like it was Bret Hart, again, just being like typical Canadian, right? Yeah. As a kid, it was Bret Hart, right? And like Hogan was the bad guy because he was in the way of Bret Hart.
Yep.
We'll never forget, what is it, WrestleMania 9 when he walks in and steals it from him.
Yeah.
That was right. Bad history. Montreal Screwjob, all that business. Yeah, and then Edge in the next era. I forgot what they call that, the ruthless aggression era, wherever they're trying to name it now. But yeah. So like just Canadians right through, not intentionally, it just happened to be that way. But yeah, I was a big fan of Edge, and then so getting to see that rivalry take place in a very small house here in Toronto, like it's where the farm team for the Leafs play. So it's a very small building, so there wasn't a bad seat, $20.
Yeah.
Pretty damn close as he's throwing Christian into a pocket net. And, that was great.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's awesome. But, I don't know that I'm gonna have the money, but they're coming. AEW is coming to Cincinnati next week, I think. But like, we're leaving to go down to Florida for a week.
Okay.
Like 2 days later. And so I don't know if I'm going to have the money to do it, but God, I would love to, because it's in a smaller venue. We've seen a ton of concerts there. It's a brand new building. Like it's less than 3 years old. And I'm like, they're doing a wrestling show there. I need to go. The wife doesn't know yet though. So like,
she doesn't watch, I guess.
She does like that. I lucked out. I got a wife that loves like comic book movies. I'm getting her into the books because I just keep buying them for her. But then like, she also grew up watching wrestling. She was a WCW girl through and through.
Oh, amazing.
She will take no bad talk about Goldberg, and that's fine because I will take no bad talk about Sting. Like that's where we land. And so we had that in common. So we like going to the shows, but I'm the guy at shows that like, I'm going to root for whoever no one else is rooting for, just because I love being that guy at a wrestling show.
Yeah.
And like, it has gotten me acknowledged several times at smaller shows by like Wade Barrett. I was the only dude rooting for him, and I liked him anyway, so it was really easy. But like, he came out and it was just crickets. And I was like, this is my guy. This is my moment. Yeah. And I just like, and the whole match, I was losing my mind. And so at the very end of it, he went over on Dolph Ziggler. And so he's like doing his poses at the end, and he gets up on the thing and he's like doing one of these, and I stand up and I'm like, wait, blah! And he like found me and was like, I just was like, night made, worth it, like totally in. Love it.
That's awesome.
Yeah. So comics and music, do you know what your wrestling walkout music would be?
Oh, that's a good one. It's got to be something Rage Against the Machine. Just
ooh, okay.
I feel like it doesn't, like, if you actually listen to Rage Against the Machine, it doesn't go, but I don't care. It sounds cool.
Hey, it's whatever gets you high. It's like the baseball players that walk up to like country. Like,
yeah.
What are you doing? Like, this is not the right music. Like, Rage is a good answer.
Against this, but but it sounds good, so it's gonna work.
Yeah, I mean, if it works for the player, like whatever.
Yeah,
I'm not here to judge, but like, I think mine would have to be something from Atreyu, just because they've got like that Anger Left Behind from their second 2 CDs ago. Nice, like, dude, that song gets me hyped, and I need, like, that's the energy I would need to walk out to. And it starts with just like this really nice instrumental guitar, and then the guitarist just does a it just screams, and I would want that for the audience as I walk out.
You need that like drop moment, right? Yeah.
100%. Sorry, it's not often I get to nerd out with wrestling fans. So
Oh,
like,
sure, yeah.
even as a casual fan, that's good enough for me because you're in Toronto. So,
I just say that to protect myself when I say something wrong, right? Because I certainly will.
Yeah, and there's gonna be the dude that with the neck beard
Yeah.
in his basement that's like, actually, that wasn't 98, that was
Yeah.
97. It's a common misconception. Like, okay, bro. Thanks.
Yeah, exactly.
Thanks,
exactly.
Teddy, for telling me that I was wrong. My bad. So comics though. So Naked Kaiju Woman launches January 8th, and it's the first of 5 issues that you're gonna do. Yeah, that's 5 parts. Tell me about that. How where did this come from? Why did this come from?
Yeah, so I'm gonna admit something. I really like the poster for Attack of the 50-Foot Woman.
Okay.
I haven't sat and like watched the film itself because
Fair.
the little bit I've seen did not hold my interest. It wasn't great.
It's
So, but the poster.
You're beating me because I was going to ask you if it had anything to do with that movie.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah.
Great.
So
okay.
the main cover is a straight up homage to it. Like I'm not, the title font and all that. Like I'm straight up ripping from it, just to make it clear. Like that's where this came from. And then the kaiju side of it was just like I needed a cool kaiju story, so they kind of meshed together. Raphael was like hankering, the artist on Naked Kaiju Woman, was hankering to do a kaiju book as well. So it was just kind of kismet. Like we did a book, my second book, Stay Cool. It was me and Raphael. And I was like, we have to work on something together again. Like I was very happy with how it all turned out. He's excellent at drawing women in general. So I'm like, okay, I got to use that somehow. And then, we just kind of riffed a bit. And then I threw him the story and he was all in. Like, he's like, this is, yes, okay. This is what I wanted to do. So yeah, I got him working on that a little while ago. And yeah, I have scripts written for 1 through 5. I'm just doing some finishing touches on the second issue before I send it off to Raphael to get started on that. He pestered me once or twice for it, saying, "Hey, is this this is happening, right?" So it's definitely happening.
Ready.
Yeah, right. Like he's ready to go. So I'm happy to get him working, and it's should be a lot of fun. It's a little different from Parts Unknown is a serialized, like it ends it with a cliffhanger. The story doesn't end until the last page of issue 5. Like there's a very clear story told throughout. Naked Kaiju Woman, I'm doing more of a sequelized series, right? So yeah, so this book you'll get a full story in the 32 pages it runs. It's a beginning, middle, and end, and then the next book is a sequel to this story. So you can technically read the second one without reading the first. You might miss some interesting tidbits here and there, but yeah, they're all kind of standalone, but really they're sequels to one another. So although it's a series, different style for each series I got going on. Yeah,
that's awesome. Was that so? Do you have like a list of I want to do a kaiju story, I want to do a wrestling comic, I want to do a monster comic? Like, do you have a list like that, or were you just like, what's going to be next? Oh, he likes women. I think this would be fun. He's really good at that. Like, how did you land on this for now, I guess?
Yeah, it's not so much a list. There's just a lot of things I'm interested in, and it ended up being like I haven't done this yet, so I'm gonna go this way. I have a couple other projects like I haven't really shared the similar idea, right? Like it's just ideas that have been kind of sitting in the background, and I usually end up combining 2 or 3 of them to make it a full story on its own. But yeah, it's that kind of there's just like a lot of things like I haven't touched on this yet, so I'm gonna go there. And this one was like it was more the kaiju thing, and then it was how do I get Raphael drawing women, and I always have that poster around, so like all right, maybe that's something, and then I started noodling with that, got a whole story going there. And it kind of I don't want to give away the whole series, but it kind of goes
don't do that.
all over the place. I touch on a whole lot of genres and things, which is why it's a little more complete story. But yeah, so this one's just straight up kaiju, and naked ladies and evil corporations, like I like to write about all the time. And that seems to be a theme.
Evil,
yeah.
This is a safe space, Adriano. We're allowed to hate on the evil corporations because we're not that.
and that's when YouTube blocks us. No, but
yeah. Thanks. We just got buried in the algorithm.
Yeah.
Perfect.
Oh goodness. But yeah, so it's just I don't really have an official list, but I certainly have one in the back of my head of like, here's all the ideas I got, and then I have a folder of just ideas, like a full digital folder that I just kind of write things down as they pop up. So I guess that's probably the closest to that I have, and then I just, whenever I'm lacking inspiration, I sift through that file and then go, oh yeah, maybe I could use that, and then yeah, it comes together and becomes its own thing. So yeah.
See, my problem is I put all those ideas onto the same like Google Doc, and now it's like 47 pages long, and they're all just like very different feeling ideas.
Yeah.
I just thought like at the end of it, like in December when I was trying to write more and I took the month off from the show, I was like, I want to do more writing stuff because it's just like hit or miss. And literally like 3 nights ago, it was 2 a.m. and I like got out of bed and was like, I need to write this down. I'm going to forget it.
Yep.
And so, but like, that's my problem is I'll write down the idea and I keep having ideas. I'm like, that could be really cool. That could be fun. This could be really neat. How do you figure out a way to like mesh those together or like make it to, you know, you mentioned like taking several ideas to flesh out to make it one story. Like, how do you make that work? Or am I just overthinking? Or like, oh, well, he's really good at drawing women and I want to do a kaiju thing. So kaiju is going to be a woman. Like, is it that simple for you?
Kind of.
Fair enough. All right. Next question.
Yeah, not to throw that question away. But yeah, like in terms of like keeping track of everything, like I'm very meticulous about data. That's my day job, right? I'm like a data guy. So I use a lot of headings and subheadings and ways to like tag everything. So it's not like me looking at, you know, that 47-page document that you like. I think mine might be getting a little bigger now too. But I have all the headings and subheadings and this and that I can go, okay, where's my sci-fi stuff? Where's my, okay, I was looking at this for like some novellas I was thinking of, or here's the comics ideas I had. And sometimes I'll say, you know, this might not work as a novella. Maybe it's a comic. Maybe it's the other way around, or who knows, right? So I'm always kind of sifting through that file. Again, when I'm lacking some inspiration to write stuff, and then we'll pick and choose and cross them out when I've used them. So yeah, it's organization is key.
I haven't thought about tagging any of the stuff that I've done. That's a great, but then I gotta like nice.
Just don't overthink it. Just like
you don't, sir. I only ever overthink everything. Like much like this comment is the line, he lived the same as he died between big ladies' thighs in your book. I don't know what that's from. So I almost didn't want to show it because I didn't want to out myself as not knowing what that's a reference to.
Nor do I, and it's not in the book. But
okay, all right, fair enough.
Maybe I'll use it later. I gotta make a note of that one.
There you go. Yeah. Well, it's gonna live forever now here on the video. So anytime you want to revisit it, it's available on YouTube, just like every other episode that I've ever done. Shameless plug, and on podcasting platforms, so you can go back and listen as you work or whatever. I can't do that. How do people do that? How do you listen to a podcast as I'm having a podcast talking to a guest? How do you listen to a podcast where people are having a conversation as you're trying to get stuff done? Like, how do you separate your brain to do that? Do you do that?
I do that.
How do you do that?
I do that, but my job is a lot of organizing and stuff, right? So it's kind of like menial tasks. Like if I'm doing like my deep thought, I'm really having to like, okay, how is this all going to be structured and put together? Then yes, I have to shut that off, and then I'm just listening to some wordless music.
Yeah.
But if it's just me like doing my organizing of things or putting things together, yeah, absolutely. I have to distract myself or I'll fall asleep.
That's crazy. Also, we're both off the hook. Crooked Painter just made that up, so we're both
wonderful.
Okay, good. Then it makes sense that we didn't know what it was a reference to.
Good thing we didn't lie about it. Be like, I know that reference.
I don't know if you're in on your ladies' thighs quotes, but
yeah.
I don't even know if that can't be a thing. I don't even want to ask if it is because I don't know that I'm going to like the answer. So you've got are you you said you're doing lettering still for the first issue, but like otherwise it's already like wrapped in the can, done.
Yeah, I just got the colored pages back from JP a couple days ago. So yeah, it's pretty much done. It's just the lettering and that has to be done. It'll be ready for print by the time the funding comes through, which is usually a couple weeks after it ends. So mid-February should be going to the printers. Yeah, so
that's awesome. And are they all planned at being like the same 32 page count, or is it just like wherever the story lands?
No, I try to be very like, because if I don't have some discipline in terms of page count and that, I'll go nuts, right? So, so I try to give myself this is a 32 page series. Same with From Parts Unknown's 24 pages. Every book is 24 pages, right? I'm even particular about like it's 24 pages and there's a 1-2 page splash per book kind of thing. So I'm always like very rigid because if I don't give myself the guardrails, I'll just like, this book is 120 pages all of a sudden. They go on a weird tangent.
Sorry, Raphael.
Yeah. Oh, he would love it, I'm sure, because my bank account might be stressed though.
Fair. Yes, that's totally fair.
The front half. Yeah.
So what's that process like for you working with different artists of like when you're scripting and sending it off, and then do they send you pencils right away, or do you like thumbnail, talk about it, to get the layouts right, and then go into penciling, final feedback stuff, then go into inking, coloring, get them back to letter, and they like, how does that all come together for you?
So I write full script. That's like probably the only part where I'm very like meticulous about things, but even my descriptions are relatively brief, right? Like I don't prescribe too much. And then with almost every artist, they've sent me back layouts. I'm always like, yeah, they look good. I'm like, no notes. Like, no. I don't think I've ever really provided like a serious note outside of like, hey, I think that guy, like, he should be on the other side. Like, they look like they're on the same side. It's like, oh yes, okay, we'll flip that. That's like the most like you need to correct that I've probably done. Or that guy looks angry, can we make him look less angry or something? Like, it's usually the most minor thing, and it's very, very exceedingly rare, to the point that with Raphael, like, he stopped sending me layouts because I just like, I'm like, yeah, they're fine. Like, they're fine. It's me. Daniel still sends them, but again, I'm like, I rarely have a note. So, but yeah, it's, I don't know. I guess I'm very easygoing in that regard. Yeah, I've sent the full script, so it's like I've told you kind of what I'm looking for. You've gotten it, so we'll figure it out from there. Yeah. And usually they improve on what I've sent, right? Like,
isn't it crazy how that works?
Yeah. Right. So it's rare that I'm like, hold on, you've gone a totally different direction. If anything, they like got what I'm going for and improved it, or like the pacing might have been a little bit off because again, I'm doing it kind of. I might do a little thumbnail on a post-it just to get my brain right. But generally speaking, it's all in my head, but I'm writing full script. So they'll say, no, it flows better if you go this way with the panels. So sometimes I'll get that. But yeah, almost everyone I've worked with, if they send me layouts, I rarely have anything to say about it. And then, so Raphael with Naked Kaiju Woman was just sending me inked stuff.
Here like, they are.
And I'm like, yeah, they're good. I have no comment. So... Yeah.
I mean, that's great though, to find artists that you're so like in tune with the story, and that you're scripting already in a way that they're able to easily translate into art. Because I've heard of the opposite of that, right? Where it's like, yeah, this is what I want. And then you send it, and then the artist comes back and you're like, what in the hell is this? What, like, did you read the same script that I sent? Because this is like, can we redo like everything? And that's like the worst case scenario. And I doubt that happens frequently with like vetting and stuff and talking to artists beforehand. Like, did you talk to like Raphael specifically before doing the first book with him? Or was it just kind of like hey, I like your art and I got a script and I want to hire you to do the art for my script and make my book. Here it is. Like, how did that come about?
Yeah. So usually I try people out with covers. That's been my like introduction. More so, again, the storytelling, you're not going to get so much from a cover, right? So if they can't do a page properly, I mean, when you're vetting them and you're looking at their work, you can tell if they can tell a story with their art anyway. So I trust that they'll be able to do it. But just in terms of they might be an excellent artist and they're impossible to get a hold of, or or really slow or whatever. So I use the covers to kind of build that relationship and say, okay, like we work well together. You seem to understand what I'm going for with my sparse descriptions and all that, and that usually is a good sign. So with Raphael, he was on my second book. He did a cover for my first, and then Mattia, who did my third book, did a cover for the second, and it's just kind of that. So I always kind of pluck Daniel. I kind of just plucked out of the air. I don't know how that one worked out. He was on my list. I do have a list of like artists that it's like one day I'll reach out to them for a cover or something, and then Daniel was just like saying, hey, I'll whip something together fast. He did it, and I'm like, you know what? Just do the whole book. It's cool. So, so it worked out really well with him. But generally speaking, yeah, I'm doing covers and that too. Just see that the relationship's working and everything, right? I've had a couple.
Yeah.
None of the artists that I've actually finished the cover with, but I've had artists fall through at that stage. So I know maybe it's not going to work when I'm like trying to get them to do 100 pages after a whole series, right?
Yeah.
If one is getting to be a challenge. There's maybe we hold on doing the big one, right?
That's that proverbial red flag.
Yeah, exactly. And it's unfortunate. Some of those artists, I reach out to them because their art's amazing, and I really wanted to work with them, and it just, for whatever reason, doesn't work out. I've had a couple like that already, so but I've been very fortunate that everybody I've worked with long term has been like super professional, super, like true professional, true artists in every way. So very happy with how it's turned out.
That's cool. And did you like go just searching like social media for, story artists for comic book for hire? Like, are you in those Facebook groups of like connecting writers and artists and stuff?
That's the one. Yeah. So that one actually got me the most luck. Right. So I think everyone but like two of them have been through there. Okay. Mick Bears, who I met at San Diego, is the only one that I've met in person outside of Roberto, which I do the podcast with because he's local. But yeah, he's the only one that I've like met in person. It's like, oh my God, like we knew each other through Kickstarter, but then we met in person. So that was cool. So I got him to do a variant for this book that's coming out Wednesday. It looks really cool. But otherwise, it's all been through Facebook. Mattia I saw on Reddit, the comic book collabs or whatever.
Yep.
That one was like, I have no idea why he was on there. He was coming off of Chicken Devils.
Okay.
And you had those pages that I had just finished reading. So I'm like, oh my goodness. How is he available? So I locked him into working with me there. So hopefully I get to get him again in the future. We'll see. I don't know. He was on the fence about doing something longer. Yeah. He's like, I like doing short covers, like just getting paid and running. But
I mean,
understandably so. But I got to see if I can twist his arm into working with me on something longer. We'll see.
Yeah, that's cool. I mean, I love how, I think I was talking with Ian about this yesterday. Like, I love how accessible finding collaborators and finding like indie comics is at this point. And like, you don't have to be in the Reddit group, in the Facebook group, on, searching hashtags on Instagram, which feels at this point very 2007. Like, you don't have to do all that stuff to like, there's artists everywhere. And like, it's just like, it's crazy to me because as someone who can't draw his way out of a paper bag, I, have always had the idea of like, I would love to make a comic. I just can't do the artwork. And if I want to do the book, like I want to have something that I'm really proud to put out and not just like stick figures that I just don't like, because I don't like a lot of the stuff that I do. Yeah. So like, it always was, well, I don't even know, like, who do I know in my life? In Earl, as they say, RL. I don't know why I'm trying to be young and hip. I'm not. My daughter would probably hit me for that. But like, how I was always trying to figure out who I knew that could do the thing. And now it's like, I don't have to know anybody. I can just like find someone, shoot them like, hey, sorry to message you out of the blue, but I really like your artwork. Can we talk? And like, it's that simple. Like, it doesn't, as an overthinker, I always am like, I have to have the pitch ready and I have to have like the thumbnails and the script and it's like, no, just talk to somebody. And so like, shamelessly, I'm now like working with a buddy that I met actually through this show that like was, hey, I want to do a comic. I was like, dude, I do too. And we just started FaceTimed one day and talked for like an hour and a half. And suddenly we had a story, and now we're like working through it. And it was just like, I never would have been working with a dude who lives in Oklahoma to like make a comic book, and yet here we are. And so it's just, like, it's just fascinating to me, and I love hearing that process. Partly like shamelessly, I just want to learn, and then also like, speaking of the learning piece, did you have people like in the indie community that you were like learning under their proverbial Chris Jericho learning tree from, or like, see what I did there? Like, were you just kind of like, ah, we'll just figure it out?
Yeah, it was yeah, it was a little bit of ladder in terms of like comic specific stuff. Yeah, it was just kind of, let's dive in and do it. Jim Zubs, another Canadian.
Yes, he is.
His website was huge, right? Like he really lays out everything for you, like soup to nuts, the whole thing. So that was helpful. I did join a Tyler James comic launch. Yeah, you haven't heard that one before?
No.
That's like, you're trying to be younger. I'm going into the old.
that's like a grandpa thing, right?
Yeah,
like, I can see him. So, soup to nuts, I'll tell you. Sorry,
that was like it was a showstopper. I get it.
Yeah, no, it's worth stopping everything. Hard breaks.
I have one of those every once in a while, and I've given up on trying to sound young. I've just lean the other way now.
Yeah. So Jim Zub, super helpful. I've also perused his website, and agreed. Like, holy soup to nuts, I guess. He covers everything.
He's surprisingly accessible as well. So you can like, if you follow his Substack or his Twitter, like, or X, whatever the heck we're calling it. Yeah. He's very like, if you have like a reasonable question, he's pretty good at responding, right? Like if you're asking, how do I get into comics, he'll just paste the link to his website. But understandably so, because I'm sure he gets that question 100 times a day,
all the time. Yeah,
right. But generally speaking, yeah, like if you have a very specific question, like he's pretty open to answering you and helping you out. Like he's been really cool in that regard. But that's you know, that's just one person. There's a lot of people like, just like that are very open and very friendly and helpful in that. So I try to pay it forward to be the same way. So there's been a few people who've reached out with things about like Kickstarter and all that business, and always happy to help, because got to pay it forward, right? Like the fact that everyone's been so helpful, I'm always happy to return that favor, right?
That's awesome. I know we mentioned before we went live, but the whole like the waters rise and everybody's boats go with it thing. And I think like every time a creator who's had some experience is willing to turn around and say, no, come on, like I'll show you, that's that creator pouring more water into the ocean to raise everybody's boats. Like that's what that fitting it into the metaphor works for. Kudos to me for figuring that out. But like that's crucial to getting the waters to rise. Like the only reason that the indie comics community can continue to grow and thrive is if those already in the community are the ones that are like, hey, I'll answer your question on social media or whatever. I had no idea that Jim Zub was that responsive, because I follow him, I think, everywhere.
Yeah.
Which isn't creepy because it's 2025 and social media, but like he always is doing like 75,000 things. Yeah. So for you to be like, yeah, he posts his link, like he posts his link to people in response. Like I would just be like, I'm not even dealing with it. Like
block.
Block user flag. No.
Yeah. And well, so, he teaches here in Toronto, at Seneca College. So I think maybe, I don't know if that part of him, the teacher in him, feels the need to reply. I don't know. But like I said, he's been very friendly and helpful with the odd question here and there. I always try to pay it back, but to be self-serving about it. I mean, the more high quality stuff that's out there, like the more that people are putting out good indie books, like professional quality indie books, the better it is for everybody. Because every time you get someone like, there used to be a thing about self-publishing books, like novels and that it's like, oh no, like real writers don't self-publish, right? And then eventually that's turned around now, where the indie market is almost as big as the you know, the regular like bookstore market, and hopefully we can get there with indie comics. But you know, it still has that little bit of a stigma where it's like, oh, you know, it's because you couldn't make it, that's why you're doing it. It's not necessarily. It may just be a better deal to run a Kickstarter, right?
Yeah.
Not have to share the rights with anyone, like even all the horror stories in comics about rights and all that stuff too.
Yeah.
Like, it's not a bad route to go, right?
Yeah. And like the funny thing is, when I talk to like the majority of my family, like none of them understand it. They're like, oh, you have a thing on YouTube. Okay. And, but like talking about indie comics, I say that and they're like, what? Like, so not Marvel and DC, what else is there? And I'm like, okay, I'm going to need you to take a seat.
There's levels to it.
Are we talking like distributed in comic shops? Like, where are we? And I lose them immediately.
Yeah.
But like, that's the beauty of the scene right now, is that there are so many options. I don't see that as a bad thing as a reader, because I'm like, I have so many things to choose from. Like there was a week that I think there were like 564 books that came out in 1 week from like every publisher there is.
Yeah.
Which is insane. And like looking through some of them, because I didn't have time to go through every single book and look at what was coming out, but like it was just, we have horror, we have slice of life, we've got romance, we've got superhero, we've got detective, we've got noir, we've got black and white, color, pulp, like sci-fi, fantasy, horror, like all the things. And that's just in like 15 of the 560 whatever. And it was just like, this is the best time to read comics. Like this, it just is. And I like, you don't have to, being in the indie scene, a large part of the beauty of it is that you don't have to like pitch your story to someone else and hope that they like it enough to say like, yeah, we'll publish that. Like doing it yourself, you don't have to have that permit. You just do it. And like, that's the DIY mindset. I love being able to work in, I have an imaginary checklist. This is like, we just paused the regular show. I have an imaginary checklist of things that I really like to talk about. Community is one of them. Getting in the DIY mindset is another. And I've nailed both of them. So like back to your regularly scheduled program. So that's the beauty of like the DIY mindset, is the like, I just want to do it. Like I have this thing and I want to get it out. And so I'm just going to I'm going to find an artist. And if I have to sift through 75 comments on a Facebook post to do it, that's what I'm going to do. Because I just need to get the story. And so like when people start betting on themselves, and you hear this a lot in the parallels of like pro wrestling of, well, they just bet on themselves and they made a way. And like, it sounds cheesy and like manufactured or whatever, but it's real. That like you have to be willing to, I'm going to take the time, I'm going to make the time, because writing, once you get the script to your artists, you're like, cool, send it back, I'll wait. And like, that's beautiful. But like, you didn't just, sneeze and have a script, right? Like it takes time to figure out the main beats, the arcs, the conflict, the resolution, like character development, what lines are going to work and not work, and all like framing and all of that stuff as a writer that you're seeing in your brain as you're trying to get it out into paper in the form of words that someone else can then take and make it into pictures with their art. Like that takes time, and you can't just like slip, fall, trip and have a script for a comic book. So I don't know where I'm going with that. I had a point at some point and then I just got off on a tangent, but like if anybody that is listening to this or watching this or whatever has an idea, like take the time to write it down and just see what happens. And if you just write it down and it sits in a file folder in a Google Doc, whatever, like you at least got it out. But if you enjoyed that process, maybe do it again, and then maybe learn about the process, and then enhance the process, and then practice the process and do the thing. And then eventually you'll be like, hey, no, I have like a substantial amount of stuff that I've written, and like, now what do I do with it? And then it like, that's the journey that I think a lot of people don't appreciate along the way, which is another thing I talked to Ian about yesterday, was like, you got to enjoy the process. And when my boss tells me that, I'm like, dude, shut up. There's nothing enjoyable about clicking the same 4 buttons. It's like that. Don't tell me that. That's not applicable here. But in life, like anytime you're training or developing a creative outlet, like you got to enjoy the process.
100%. Yeah. Well, that's the whole thing, right? And I think that's what people don't appreciate with the indie scene in a way, is that they think like we're taking a shortcut. It's like we should have done the hard thing of getting a publisher, right? And do querying and getting rejected over and over. And that's part of the process. It's like, no, but what we've done is we've taken on the job of the publisher now. So yes, I've done all the same sweat and the same concern and the same everything that you've done in getting my script where I want it to be, right? And all of that pressure and the whole, it's the iceberg thing, right? Like you see the script and there's all the stuff I did before I ever wrote the script, right?
Yep.
But now I've also taken on a whole nother job, which is probably a bigger job, which is trying to sell the book, right? And trying to do the Kickstarter and fulfillment and all that stuff. And it's a totally different thing. And it's, so I don't think it gets the respect it should, because like I'm taking on everything myself. I didn't just write this script and send it off and say, I'll see you in 6 months when it's published, right?
Yeah.
Like I'm doing everything. Soup to nuts, right?
Right. Soup to nuts, baby.
Figured I'd get that in one more time for you.
No, I love that you did. Something else that, since you were talking about Edge and Toronto, and we mentioned like seeing a small show, the venue that that AEW is going to be in a couple weeks is where I saw Alter Bridge, who does Edge's theme song.
Yeah.
And like the whole show, I was just waiting for that one song to come on, and they played it, of course, as their encore. So like, as a band, they're not my favorite. Like they're talented musicians.
Yeah.
As a live experience, I could have just listened to the CD. Like, but when they started playing, I just saw Edge running out. So I started reenacting. We're in the middle of this venue, like in front of the sound stage, because I'm not 20 anymore. I don't need to be part of the barricade brigade. Like I can hang back and just have my earplugs in because I'm losing hearing, and that's fine. Yeah. But like they started playing, I did the like Edge thing where he like comes out and does the thing to the audience. And I ran over to the other side. My wife is standing there. She goes, psh, psh. She was the pyro smoke. We had a much different experience watching that song than anybody else in the building. But I was like, this is the whole reason I wanted to see this band. And like I went for one of the opening bands. Sure. Like Seven Dust opening for Alter Bridge blows my mind, because to me Seven Dust was way better, but like everybody was there for Alter Bridge, so that's great, good for them. But yeah, we reenacted the entire Edge entrance, and we had some people looking over like, what are they doing? The sound guy gave me like a like he got it, and I was like, all right, that's all I need, man.
Amazing.
But speaking of music, see, we're just that's another little check.
Let's get there, yes.
So I know you mentioned listening to like instrumental stuff while you're working. If you were given 2 blank tickets to go to any concert, who would you go see?
Oh man, it would have been Rage Against the Machine, not to be repetitive. I saw them before Zach got injured there and had to cancel the concert. I was ready to buy tickets to go see it again in Detroit. Like that's how much I had. Like it was like a bucket list concert, right?
Yeah.
Like, so that's a big one. System of a Down this year. I got tickets to Toronto and New York, because that was another one that like who knows if they're gonna make it to the concert or if it'll ever happen again. Right. So
there's always the like, what did Surge do with System of a Down now? And
right. So it's like, okay, they say they're doing a tour. I'm going to get tickets. We'll see if they do it, and I'll be there. And then who knows if they don't do it for another 10 years, right? So I had to do that one. But yeah, I've been very lucky. I've been able to see most of the folks that like I've wanted to see. I see Bush a lot. Like I follow them every time they come to Toronto.
Yeah.
Who else is there? Man, I have like a whole list. Metallica this year. I haven't seen them since like the Death Magnetic tour because they skipped over Toronto. I bought tickets for Detroit, and then it was impossible to stay anywhere in Detroit. It was $700-800, so I had tickets for one night. I'm like, you know what? It's going to cost me 3 times the cost of the ticket just to stay the night. So I sold off that ticket, and fortunately they're coming to Toronto. So
nice
seeing them this year. Yeah, it's a big year. I don't know.
Hey, we had one of those a couple years ago, so I get it.
Yeah. But yeah, and then I guess Canadian rock, Sam Roberts. I don't know if he's familiar with Sam Roberts' band.
I am not.
It's a little more like indie sounding rock, but yeah, we last year I think we saw him like 5 or 6 times.
Oh wow.
We won a radio contest, so we went to one of those like 50 people in a room kind of shows too.
Dude, those were the best,
right? So we did that, and we did the like huge like biggest show he's ever done kind of show. We were in the front row because it was just the first come first serve kind of general admission thing, and we were there stupid early. So, we didn't even realize how big it got, that there were people like pulling down fences and stuff to get in. So yeah,
jeez,
very like we got both ends of the spectrum. So yeah. Anyways,
awesome.
I do go to a lot of concerts. Yeah.
I wish that I went to more, because if like any of the big bands that actually come to Cincinnati, which is still an hour drive for me, they usually like skip Cincinnati and just do Columbus and then Louisville. And they just like bypass Cincinnati altogether because our main arena hasn't been updated since 1974 or whatever. And so like it's way outdated. It's just like, I love going to it because that's where our hockey team plays, but like you go in and it's the same gum that's been stuck there for 15 years that you're like, I don't know how they didn't just clean it up. Like, give me a scraper and I'll get it. But like, that's why we get passed over, because we just don't, like, we just had the big Green Day and Smashing Pumpkins and Rancid show at Great American Ballpark, which I was like, I want to go see that. And also, I'm not going to pay $100 plus fees for the top row at Great American Ballpark. Like, I'm not going to, I can get a ticket in that same exact seat for a baseball game for $15. I'm not paying. I love those 3 bands. Like, I would say Rancid and Smashing Pumpkins are my top 5, like, of all time ever.
Nice.
And I'm still not going to do it because it's just too much money. And it was a Tuesday night. Like, come on, guys.
It was untouchable here too. We were doing it in the Sky Dome. So the problem with like, it's a dome, right? It's like a bowl. So if you're in the top, you get a nice echo. So you're getting you're getting all the music a couple seconds late.
Awful.
So just don't go. Just don't go.
Just don't go. Right. I was like,
it's gonna cost you $150, and you're not gonna experience the concert the way everyone on the lower bowl is.
Yeah.
So yeah, Metallica I paid. We're sitting in the lower section because I'd like to hear it live.
Right, the first time they play it, and not the
I
bet the reverb would be awful, because then you get it from the amps, and then you get the like traveling the dome and hitting you.
Oh, it's so brutal. If it's ever closed, like if you're going for a winter show, it's unbearable. Like, you can't. You got to go when the dome's open, and then at least the sound's getting out, I guess. But I've been there with a closed dome, and it's just, you're getting like just a mess. Like, it's not a fun time, and it's not cheap. So
two really not great reasons to go to any show ever.
Right. Save your money. So we're building a stadium in a field now because of that. It's very strange. It's it's like a impromptu just for this summer, like a 50,000 seat stadium that's being built at the end of the subway line, and then at the end of the summer it gets torn down. But that's how we're getting System of a Down, so they're going to be there.
Hey, worth it, you know?
Yeah, right. I'm in. I'm sold.
That's great. It's weird to me. I don't know anything about like city planning or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And this was not on my checklist of things I ever expected to be talking about on the show. But here we are. I don't understand like city planners that go, let's do this, instead of just like making the existing thing better.
Mm-hmm.
Like, instead of making our arena better, because it changes names almost every season, So I think now it's the Heritage Bank Center. But like, instead of just making it better, they keep getting new sponsors, and the new sponsors just slap their name on it and they don't
Yeah.
do anything inside.
Yeah.
And I'm like, that's not how sponsorship works, A of all. But like, instead of doing that, they're tearing down. So we have Coney Island, which when it was open, because now it's closed, was the world's largest recirculating pool, like the world's, which is insane.
Yeah.
I worked there for 2 summers cleaning out trash cans.
Oh,
But
nice.
like, and I, it was fun. It was a good high school job. Like that's what high schoolers did, is either that or Kings Island, and I worked both. But
Nice.
they're completely removing the pool and all the rides that were there, and they're putting in a new amphitheater, even though we used to watch free concerts at Riverbend, which is our like main outside amphitheater on the river. We would sneak up to the top of the Zoom flume, and like we would just stand there in the little guard tower at the top of the slide and watch the shows, because that's how close they are. Like they share a parking lot. Instead of just like spending the money to upgrade that or upgrade the arena, they're building a whole new amphitheater to share, so that there will be 3 amphitheaters sharing the same parking lot. And I'm like, guys, what are we doing? What?
You could have thought this through.
It's like when 2 log trucks pass each other on the highway.
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
It's, I forget what comedian did that, but it's like, if you've got logs and you have logs, why are you driving them? Like, just take them. It's that to me, and I don't understand. Anyway, that's my little gripe. But hey, if you get System of a Down out of it, they're a band that I would have loved to have seen, and I just never got a chance to.
Oh man, well they're doing double the shows everywhere. They had to like do a second night at every venue, so there's 2 in Toronto, 2 in New York, 2 in Chicago. So you should be able to get tickets somewhere, but you'd have to travel.
Yeah, I'd have to travel, and we're already traveling. Like,
yeah, that's fair.
We're like a one trip a year household.
That's fair. Yeah, no, we're spoiled in Toronto. We get like, we're the biggest city in Canada, so we're bigger than Chicago now. We're number 4 in North America. So
nice.
So people pass through here now. Finally, we used to get passed over all the time, but now it seems like, okay, it's a destination. Like people will come to Toronto.
Go to Toronto.
Yeah. So
I love it. I mean, and I'm eternally jealous because you guys have an NHL team there in your city, and we don't. Like, I gotta drive 2 hours to get to the Blue Jackets, and they're terrible. And like,
I've enjoyed it, but so Red Wings. Although we have team, you cannot get in the building. It is prohibitively expensive. If you ever get season tickets, like I say, if you've ever had season tickets, you pass them through the generations here. So it is impossible to get it. If you want nosebleeds, it's $250. Like standing room, the press box is blocking half of the ice, $200. Right? So it's cheaper for me to go to Detroit, right? Do the drive, stay the night, do all that business, and I will get, seats in the lower bowl. It's cheaper for me to do all that than just to go 14 minutes on the train from where I live and watch the Leafs play. So that has turned me into a Red Wings fan.
That's fair. See, I'm a Buffalo.
3.5-hour drive versus a 14-minute train, but
totally worth it. Yeah. Yeah. I as a Buffalo fan, I've been to Buffalo, I've been to Columbus, and I've been to Detroit. And like, Buffalo was a great experience. I think I had better seats when I was in Detroit.
Yeah.
And I was in the upper bowl in Detroit, but I was like the front row of the upper bowl. So I had the glass right in front of me.
Yeah.
And I'm in all of my Buffalo stuff. My wife is wearing her Miami University hockey jersey because like that's where she works there full time and I contract there for sports. But like the people on either side of us were like, how far of a drive is it from Buffalo to here? And I'm like, dude, I have no idea. And he thought I was being a jerk, and I was like, no, so I'm sorry. I live in Ohio. Like I'm near like Cincinnati. He was like, and Buffalo's your team? I'm like, yeah. Do you want the whole story? Because there's a whole story. He was like, no, I'll take it. It's fine. Buffalo's your team. Great. So how long of a drive is it from there? I'm like, like 5 hours.
Yeah.
It's fine. It's not bad.
Should have gone the other way.
Yeah,
I've been to games at Columbus. I enjoyed Columbus too, but I don't think I'd enjoy it nowadays. But yeah, it was all right when matches, right? But yeah, not so much now.
That's fair. Let me see. Oh, Instant Ink podcast. See, this is why I write stuff down, because I was like, I think we're done. I'm not done with you. Instant Ink podcast. Tell me about it. Like, I know you're booked through May and you do it on Tuesdays, but like, what's the show about?
Yeah, so it's not a secret to anybody. We pre-record it, right? So we're still doing it in the background, but right now we have episodes pre-recorded through to May, and I think 2 more people booked today. So June, call it June, that we'll have episodes every Tuesday. And yeah, so what we do is with my good artist friend Roberto. Actually, he did that cover that you have in the background there from Parts Unknown, that like WrestleMania 1 homage variant thing that he did. Yeah, so he's the artist on the show, and we'll get people on. They don't always have to be writers. It's lean writer a lot, but we've had a couple artists on. We've had folks that are like filmmakers and stuff as well. That's cool. So we just have anyone really that is interested in making a 1-page comic. So we do a little prompt live. We don't know what we're going to do ahead of time. Like, we don't discuss it ahead of time. We do it live on screen. I read them out, and then we come up with a story based on those prompts. Sometimes we stick with the prompt. Sometimes we leave it entirely and do something entirely different. The whole point is just to come up with a story on the spot, and then Roberto starts drawing it. And then while he's drawing it, me and whomever will chat, because Roberto tends to get a little quiet once he's drawing, understandably so. And yeah, we'll talk about everything. We've talked about like comic stuff and like pushing projects and doing all that stuff. We've just talked about whatever. We talked about Star Wars for a full episode one time. Just whatever comes to mind, whatever people feel like chatting about. It's just an excuse to have some fun and talk about some random stuff. And then at the end of it, we get a 1-page story that's kind of made all at one go. Yeah, I've been splitting the episodes into 2. So there's a part 1 and part 2, because it tends to take a couple hours to get that page done. So yeah, that's been it. And then we chop them all up into shorts, so they're available on YouTube and Instagram and all that. If you don't want to sit for the full 2 hours and watch us draw and talk about whatever, I pick out all the good parts for you, man. That seems to be where most people are watching the show, is on shorts and Instagram, TikTok, and all that business.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's been going really well, and I think it's good in a way because a lot of these shows, like myself, I'm here to push my latest project. And again, there's people who do it much better than we do, yourself included, right? Like, you have people on, how to get the right questions and get the people talking about their projects and the inspiration and all that. We're more just about like, who are you, right? Like let's just chat. Let's just chat about whatever you want. We're here to make a comic, and then whatever we happen to talk about, that's what we're going to talk about today. So it's a little different in that sense, that you get to know people a little differently than you would when they're in full promo mode. Right. And yeah, it's been pretty well. We like I said, we talked with all kinds of different people, not always just comics folks. So it's been a really cool show. Hopefully we can have you on soon too. And,
I'm saying
let's do it. Yeah, like I'm all for it. It's a fun show. Like, again, we just very loose, very like, we don't have too much of a structure outside of the let's get this comic page going kind of thing.
Yeah.
And then yeah, we just kind of talk it out, see how it all plays out. Sometimes we fight for the story and the page a bit, and it doesn't come easy. Sometimes people just like click and they have it immediately. It's really interesting to see where everybody's coming at it with. A mutual of ours, PJ, was very nervous about being on here.
Yeah.
Right. And then being on our show, he ended up making a great page. Like, again, we fought for it a little bit in terms of like, we weren't exactly sure where the prompts were taking us, but we ended up making a great page out of it. So that'll be playing in February. But nice. But yeah, like we have all stripes. People who are ready and have an idea, and then I throw prompts at them and throw them off. And then folks that are just coming in blind, and we kind of guide them through it. So it's been a great experience. Met a lot of cool people. Yeah, everybody's coming at this the different way. So like you said, it's good to learn. I've learned a lot from people and how they're approaching this whole indie business, right? That you don't necessarily get at a show when you're just talking to somebody quickly at their table and they're like ushering you aside because they need to make table that day. Right. Right. You sit down for a couple hours with somebody, you get to know them quite a bit. So it's been great. So I've had a lot of fun.
That's awesome.
I I highly recommend checking it out.
I absolutely will. And I'll be looking for some sort of scheduling link from you.
Absolutely.
But so what do you do with the one pagers once they're done with them?
Oh, good question. Yeah, you think I would have said that. They all go on our website. They all go on our website. So once the episode airs, you could check out instantinkpodcast.xyz, and that'll take you to the show page, and then you can kind of flip through, and we have a little profile of like what we talked about on the podcast. There's all the links to the podcast itself and the page that we put together, so you can
That's
flip
awesome.
through them and read them all. Yeah, we've been talking about other ways. There's been people who have been on and said, are we doing a Kickstarter at the end of this? Or I don't know if we're going to go that route, but maybe we'll put it on some kind of platform that it's a little more accessible to people too. Like I don't know if we do like a global comics or something like that, just to get more eyeballs on the work that we've done together, right?
Because that's a lot of creative energy between you, the artist, and the guest to like come up with a whole story. Because again, like you don't just like slip and sneeze out a story.
Yeah.
So like that's got to be invigorating and like slightly exhausting of just like, all right, we're gonna do another one page. Like for me, the idea of coming up with the one page is so damn challenging, because how do you tell a complete idea in a single page? Like that's always been my like challenge with just doing I would love to do just a one page. And I've talked to a handful of people. I've got a buddy that's an editor for one of the publishing comic publishers, smaller name whatever's. And when we were talking, he was like, I know you've got ideas, but like start small. Like start, like see if you can do a 1 pager, see if you can do a 4 page or an 8 page or whatever, and then like build up from there, instead of just jumping in like, I'm a new writer and I have a 900 page epic that I want to tell. Like maybe pump the brakes, bro.
Yeah.
But so like I took that to heart and I was like, I want to be able to say that, yeah, I've done a 1 page, I've done a 4, done an 8, whatever. And then I tried to do a 1 page and I was just like, how does anyone do this? Like it's so challenging.
It's a different muscle entirely. Like the thing about that, it's good advice, right? Especially if you're trying to like get to know an artist. Like you don't want to start with a 40 pager that'll never see the light of day, right? If you give them 4 pages, they will get it back to you relatively quickly, and you have something now, right? But 1 page is a whole different challenge. It's a different muscle, different exercise entirely. So to say like just do that, it's not as though you're starting with something easier. It's just a totally different challenge, right?
Yeah.
And that's what they don't tell you. It's more thinking about it in terms of like, you do the 1 page and it'll be done, right? Like you get it to an artist, they will send it to you, and then your part is finished and you have something. So in that sense, it's good. In sense of like getting you prepared to write something longer, it does nothing for you. It's a totally different thing, right? So when we first started the podcast, we were trying to, again, pre-recorded. So we were trying to bank episodes, and we were like speed running it. So we were doing 2, a couple times we did 3 people in a week. That was exhausting.
Yeah.
That was absolutely exhausting. So now if anybody books an episode, we block the rest of the week and it disappears from the schedule, because we're doing no more than 1, because it does get, and that's me just talking about like trying to think up a story and then saying, now Roberto, you draw it.
Yeah.
Right. And then I go and I talk about whatever.
Yeah.
Right.
We can talk as you do the artwork stuff.
Yeah. As you do all the heavy lifting, I'm going to just talk about how I enjoyed Shogun this week or whatever. And so it has nothing to do with what we're talking about.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then at the end they say, oh, you did the comic. Cool. Let's add some like balloons and we'll call it a day. So I imagine it's even more stressful for Roberto.
Yeah.
He says otherwise, but I guess that's the whole thing with the partnership, is that it looks like the other guy's doing a lot of work if you're doing it right. So it's been a good partnership though. And cool. It's good to kind of just see how everybody approaches that 1 page, right? Because like I said, sometimes it's very difficult, sometimes it comes very easy, but everybody has a different like mindset as to how they crack a story, and you get to see that live, right? So it's been really cool in that sense. While still being loose and fun.
That's just like that whole process is just super fascinating. So I think it's great. I'm absolutely going to be checking it out. And can't wait to see what you and PJ came up with Roberto, because yeah, PJ's solid dude, another comic book wrestling guy, post punk, like all the things. Much mad love to PJ and Team Ninja Shark Studios, which he represents. See, I had to remember all that stuff. I have notes on him. You want to know what my notes are? I can't find it that fast.
Well, actually, I think we're bookending your episode with him. So he'll be on the first half of ours will be on, and then he'll be on with you, and then the end of ours will be on. So
that's awesome. Perfect.
We'll have a busy week. Yeah.
Yeah, that's a busy week for sure for him. Sweet. All right, so that's officially the end of my notes, but that's not the end of the stuff that I have for you. I have two more things. One is super simple. I'm gonna take a screenshot. We're gonna pose, and that'll be our YouTube thumbnail, and that's basically so that you can show your personality for how you want to be seen. All right, ready? 3, 2, 1. Okay. The other thing is, I love doing this show because I love talking to people and hearing what their experiences are, because everybody has very different experiences that led them into this indie comics community. So what I like to do is I shut up and I turn the floor over to you. So if you have anything that you want people to hear, could be about your book, it could be about why Naked Kaiju Women are better than Naked Kaiju Men. I don't care about the content. It's just the fact that, like, I want to make sure that you have a space to make sure that anybody has a chance to hear what you want them to hear from you. Go.
Right on. Yeah. So you can find me online everywhere. I'm at Pesto Comics, but most importantly, pestocomics.com. It's easy to spell. It's easy to find. There you will find everything that I have coming out. I mentioned that I have plans for the next many Kickstarters, so you don't have to keep track of that yourself. Just go to pestocomics.com. But I always say this is the latest project. You can find it here. And if you missed any of the previous projects, the best way to get caught up is through the Kickstarters. The bundles and that is where you're going to save all your money. You know, DRM free digital copies if you don't want me to send them to you, but if you want me to send them, I do my best deals on Kickstarter because it's just the best time to do it. But you can also just pick it up off of pestocomics.com. If you just like one thing, I can send that to you from there as well. So I keep it super simple. And then Wednesday is Naked Kaiju Woman, right? That's very important. It's on Kickstarter. It's coming out very soon, Wednesday morning at 8 a.m. If I wake up on time, I will hit the launch button and it'll be available for all. But yeah, I can't wait for people to see this one. It's been it's been something that Raphael and I have been working on for quite a while. Like I've been saying, the book is more or less done, so you can feel comfortable knowing that if you back this, you are getting the book, right? It's not one of those situations where I'm gonna send money and hopefully I get something. Like, you will get it. My goal is, in the next couple of months, it will be at your door and you'll be reading it and hopefully love it and support the next one. And then from Parts Unknown, I've been saying that book is done. It's almost done. The 5th issue is being worked on, but I haven't released the 2nd. So by the time you back it on Kickstarter, the book will be ready to go. So yeah, if you want to support it, again, Kickstarter is where you'll find all of it, but pestocomics.com is the best place to keep track of everything. Or join my newsletter on Substack, and then I read it out every week. If you haven't had enough of listening to me right now, I ramble on every Wednesday at noon. And yeah, you don't even have to read. I read for you. So I make it. And that's all I got. I keep it moving.
That's awesome.
pestocomics.com. There we go.
And along with the pestocomics.com, all of your socials and stuff that I collected when you scheduled this are in the video description. So do the YouTube thing and hit that like and subscribe and click the links and do the stuff and look at all of the Pesto comics that you can enjoy with your eye holes, because I really enjoy From Parts Unknown. And it's just super fun. Like, it's such a fun book. And so it's got me really excited to check out Naked Kaiju Woman. January 8th is when it launches. I'm going to back it day one so that I can brag that I was there first. Because I work from home and we're in the same time zone. So I'm just going to be like refreshing Kickstarter until you launch it. So instead of being on my work meeting, because those are boring. So that's going to be it though for this episode. Adriano, thank you so much for hanging out with me. Just laughing a lot. I had a great time chatting. Hang out with me after the fact. I got some logistics for you. But as far as anybody that is listening, watching, viewing, partaking, enjoying in this show, thank you, A of all. B of all, if you like it, share it on social media. I'm really bad at telling people to do that, but like you can share this with other people that you might think enjoy wrestling comics and indie comics and Naked Kaiju Women and punk rock and all the things that we talked about that I forget because we talked about a lot and I love that. But thank you for hanging out with us. What's a good podcast without a good tagline? This is mine. Go do what's good for you, punks, and read some indie comics. We are out of here.